Hello my dear fashion lovers, I hope you're all doing well. I'm thrilled to be back with you today to decode Georges Chakra's Spring-Summer 2025 Haute Couture collection. The starting point for this show is incredibly intimate, as the couturier drew inspiration from the very first, spontaneous doodles of his granddaughter. His creative challenge was immense, to build a direct bridge between the naivety of a child's drawing and the absolute rigor of Parisian ateliers. From the very opening of the show, it's clear that the garments will serve as a canvas for this story, turning each look into a visual confidence. The set design immediately lays the groundwork for this immersion. Under the Fashion Week spotlights, the pristine white floor reflects the silhouettes as if it were a blank sheet of paper. You can feel an almost floating lightness in the air, a soft atmosphere that calms the usual electric buzz of Parisian runways. Georges Chakra uses the gaze of childhood as a true filter to lighten the couture and free it from overly academic habits. This is never about making children's or regressive clothing. It's about capturing the raw energy of a simple marker stroke and translating it with his historic savoir-faire. On the runway, the models glide with an airy, almost carefree stride, cutting through the space with total freedom. The overall silhouette is elongated and vertical, yet constantly set in motion by a powerful element, completely reinvented Charleston fringes. Forget the classic imagery of the Roaring Twenties. Here, these fringes vibrate to the rhythm of the walk, creating a kinetic blur around the legs, as if a pencil sketch were coming to life right before our eyes. It's fluid, it's alive, and it brings a true modernity to the overall look, breaking the usual rigidity of gala gowns. The movement of the fabrics accompanies every single step, turning the walk into an extension of the initial sketch. The cuts seem simple at first glance, but they hide supple inner structures that keep the neckline suspended in mid-air. The fabric never clings to the body, it floats just millimeters from the skin, letting the material dictate its own movement. This hidden flexibility is what breathes life into the silhouettes, linking the architecture of the garment to a feeling of total freedom. The color palette then takes over from the construction, exploding through subtle gradients that flow with remarkable ease. The ombre transitions are crafted with incredible delicacy, giving the impression that the fabric was directly infused by sunlight, washed by the elements. The intertwined threads blend into the materials to create a tactile relief that recalls the texture of heavy drawing paper. When you zoom in on the pieces, you discover a deeply intimate attention to detail, particularly with 3D sculptural floral sequins colonizing the shoulders. These flowers seem to bloom straight out of the fabric. They mimic the poetic awkwardness of children's collages, yet they are meticulously executed with microbeads to catch the light with every movement of the model. You can really feel the immense respect for craftsmanship here, where technique completely fades away to let pure visual emotion take center stage. The show progresses this way, intensifying in color, moving from the soft pastels of the opening to vibrant, radiant summer hues until it hits the climax of the final. The most striking piece of this progression is undoubtedly a majestic silk crepe gown, where the embroideries escape the bodice and intentionally fray along the train, like a drawing left unfinished on the corner of a table. This is the peak of the collection, the moment where technique meets the controlled collapse of the line. What we take away from this global vision is the maturity of a couturier who has absolutely nothing left to prove, allowing himself a rare vulnerability on the runway, preferring raw emotion over the cold, geometric trends of the moment. And it's precisely there, once the curtain falls on this majestic finale, that we can legitimately ask ourselves, does this poetry of innocence really survive outside the runway? Facing the pragmatic reality of daily life, these cascades of ultra-delicate fringes and suspended fabrics require so much care that they sometimes confine the garment to the status of pure art. The contrast between this apparent fragility and the demands of the real world becomes undeniable. We find ourselves looking at pieces reserved exclusively for red carpets or collection archives, making the proposition almost untouchable. What do you think of these sculptural 3D flowers on the shoulders? Do you feel they bring the necessary poetry to break the traditional structure of haute couture, or does that volume feel a bit too heavy for a summer collection? Let's talk about it in the comments below. I can't wait to read your thoughts and chat with you. Thank you so much for sharing this moment with me to decode this show. With that said, I hope you enjoy the rest of the Runway show. To keep inspiring your own fashion eye every day, always look for the intimate story hidden just behind the technique. I'll see you very soon for our next Runway analysis.